Everybody, my name is Phil Cannato. I'm an implementation consultant with Prosymmetry. In this video, we'll look at making assignments using the bulk project allocation Flatgrid. This is one of two areas within the Tempus UI that we're able to view existing, we're able to edit or create new assignments within the Tempus UI. The other area that we can do this is the single project allocation grid, and that's covered in its own separate video. So just a quick note on that. The flat grid is where we can work with assignments in bulk. So we'll look at the three modes within the flat grid and explain how each work. Those are the default mode, resource mode, and project mode. We'll do sort of an overview of the flat grid layout, just a quick tour of the screen. And then we're going to enable and work with what is today a new feature in Tempus, multi-assignment. This is the ability to assign the same resource to the same task within a project more than one time. And we'll have a quick use case for that. So to get into the flat grid from my homepage, it's going to have its own tile. So I'm going to go ahead and select the bulk project allocation flat grid tile. The first time that you come into the flat grid, you will need to select the date range at the top. Keep in mind that this start date and end date is going to define the period of time that we are viewing assignments. It's not necessarily going to align with your project start and end date. So keep in mind that as you're looking at these, your project may begin prior to the starting date in your window here. The project may extend beyond the end date of your window here. A quick note on that. From these two toggles, we're able to select between our various data sets in Tempus. For this use case today, we're going to be working in Tempus' primary data set, which is planned allocation. However, if you are using actuals in Tempus, you're able to view your actuals, you're able to view your plan and actuals together. If your use of Tempus involves the demand data set, you're able to move over to that as well as display the allocation and demand data sets together in the same screen. This is where we'll select our various modes, which we'll go through in a minute, but also want to point out that be aware that you can create your own views out here, similarly to how you can do with the project management screen or resource management screen. This is really handy if you want to come in, for example, and see only your resources. You can come in, create a view with its own filter, and then quickly go to that rather than having to redo your work each time. Just makes it a little bit more efficient to go through your data here. So let's look at the three modes out here, and these are selected by the three selections up here. The default mode is generally going to be where you're going to make new assignments in Tempus. The reason for that is because you are able to select any resource along with any project, and once selected, you'll see that comes out on the grid here. So if there's an existing assignment for that project and resource, you see we do have one here. We're immediately able to view that in the grid. If we want to make modifications to it, works very similarly to Excel. You can just input, copy, paste, cut, drag, etc. So this can be input directly into the UI, and then you can just save. So this is our default mode. I'm going to deselect our resource and project here. And now we're going to look at resource mode. So the resource mode is in general where you're going to want to see which allocations belong to a specific resource or group of resources. From out here, as we select our resources, you can see on the right-hand side, I have projects pulling in. What Tempus is doing here is cross-referencing the projects that the selected resources are assigned to. So by selecting the resources, I'm able to see everything here that Allison and Amy are assigned as they pull into the grid. We have our project mode next, which is really the opposite of the resource mode. As I begin selecting projects, we see Tempus is cross-referencing on the left-hand side, the resources that are assigned to those projects. So a note that with resource mode and project mode in general, we're going to be working and viewing existing assignments. Another feature out here that can be very useful is the ability to filter. You can filter on a project attribute, on a resource attribute. Just a quick demonstration of how this can work. Let's go ahead, and I want to limit my projects to only those that are currently in phase one. I have this tracked in Tempus as a selection attribute. So as I go ahead and put that filtering, current phase belongs to phase one, my projects on the right-hand side are going to be limited to those projects that I have tagged in Tempus as belonging to phase one. So let's take a quick look at the screen here. The ability to add assignments out here, we'll actually use this as we get into our use case in a couple minutes here, but adding new assignments, a lot of options out here. I'm not going to go too much into detail out here. There's a lot of powerful options. The flat grid options we do cover in its own separate video just because it takes, there's a lot to it. So just a quick note on that. The ability to insert columns. So if you want to pull in any of your attributes, you can distinguish between out here your assignment attributes, which are the red folder. We have resource attributes, which are the green folder. And then we have the project attributes, which are the blue folder out here. So for example, if I want to see who's our leader, I can go ahead and those will appear, the selected attributes will appear out here as their own columns. Then another note is if you're working with resource skills, you're able to pull those into the grid as well as their own columns. Groupings, so you're able to group out here. We get into more demo of this within the options, but the grouping, just a quick example, if I want to filter my resources based on department, my resources are put in a group and I can expand and collapse based on where those resources department is coded in Tempus. Different time granularities, so we have 7 out here that you can select from. And then we have different units that you can select from. So out here, right now I'm looking at FTE %. However, you can go to FTE. You can go to time, which is going to represent assignment in terms of hours. We have our cost tab. If you do have resource rates out in Tempus, what this will do is look at the dollar amount of that rate times the hourly assignments. Even if your assignments are in terms of FTE, Tempus will convert that into an hour, multiply that times your hourly costs and display a dollar figure here. And then man days, Gantt view of your assignments. And then we have story points if you're working with team resources. Let's see. So out here, a couple options within our ellipses here that just for awareness. If you want to copy a row and then paste in a duplicate, for example, you're able to do that here. I can go ahead and copy my row, and then it's just a Control-V paste. Resource replace, this is going to be for the cases where you want to replace a resource with a specific resource that is known. Just simply select the new resource that you want to move that assignment onto and hit replace, and you move that assignment. And then we get into the ability to move into the resource replace advanced screen. We won't go through all this functionality, but this is sort of the more analytic area. That'll help you just give you a lot more information in terms of attributes, availability when determining which resource you want to move into that assignment. All right. So let's go through a use case, and we're going to go ahead and make an assignment. So for this, I'm going to use my default mode. And in my scenario, I want to go ahead and select, I want to assign Bobby onto a specific project. And here we'll assign him to our sample project. So as I select the resource in the project within the default mode, I can see that that is now represented out on the grid. I'm going to remove my grouping that we put in place before. And here I see Bobby. And I'm going to make the assignment, I want him to be working 50% out here on this project. The other thing that I want to do out here is I want to populate one of my assignment attributes so that I know the specific role on the project. This is one of my custom attributes here. A note on the assignment attributes, those can be populated within this grid, which is a little different. The resource attributes, project attributes, you can only view those. The assignment attributes, we can actually go ahead and populate those. So in this case, I want to just have it documented that this assignment, Bobby is going to be serving as a mechanical engineer in this project. So I'm going to go ahead and save it. So the new feature that I mentioned before, which is the multi-assignment, we're going to go ahead and enable that, and then we're going to come back and use it. So from my Tempus homepage, and if you are not a Tempus admin, this may be information that's not pertinent to you, but this is going to be enabled within admin settings. So this will be generally your Tempus admins who would enable this. It's found under general settings. It's on the global tab, which is the default when you come into the settings. And here it is, allow multiple assignments. We're going to go ahead and enable that. And I'm going to hit the save button. And now we're able to use that. So let's go back into the flat grid, into our prior use case where we assigned Bobby to our project. I see that it remembers me here. But I'm going to go ahead and, as Bobby is now serving 50% of his time as a mechanical engineer, I also want Bobby to serve a second role, which we use software engineer for the other 50% of his time. So we'll go in and add a new assignment. I'm going to choose, we're able to choose the projects that we have selected out here. And out here, we only have the sample project. And then we'll choose the resource. Out here, we'll select Bobby. And then the task that we have is generic. Once I select this, it's going to recognize that we have a new assignment that I can add. So from here, all the information about this assignment is going to be the same at this point. And so I'm going to add in this additional assignment here, 50%. But the difference being that we want to document that Bobby is, for this half of his time, is serving as a software engineer. So this is sort of one of the common use cases that I can see for the multi-assignment, is just to distinguish between, some different characteristic between two assignments. In this case, that difference is one role versus another. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save and come back to my home page. So this is a quick overview of our bulk project allocation flat grid. For more information on the flat grid, please visit our help center, or you can reach out to your Tempus representative. And thanks so much for watching.